And I love this idea of an actual stop sign popping up in our heads while we're thinking of all the things. You mentioned grieving time.
Hmm.
I'd like to take a moment to kind of talk about that because just like anything, right? We all say everyone has their own time to grieve. And
Hmm.
obviously, the longer the relationship, maybe the longer. I mean, if kids, if you're still contacting the person, there's all these different. How does somebody? When do we need a little kick in the butt, though?
Mm.
Like, when can we turn internally recognize and say, "Hey, we gotta we gotta move on. We gotta
Mm.
step up. We need to
Mhm.
get on with the things."
Oh, I argue very strongly that so much of personal empowerment is choice. It's all about actively making the choices that seem really small in the moment, every minute of every day, so that over time you emerge to a place of acceptance of whatever your life circumstance is. The breakup, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a career, the loss of a dream. And so probably many of us have seen people or been someone who's experienced a loss and sort of been mired in that self-pity or sadness or anger. And from a psychological perspective, there are various stages of grief that we usually go through when there's a big loss in our life. It starts with denial and shock, right? Where it's like, this can't be happening. I can't be going through this. It transitions oftentimes into bargaining, where you're trying to figure out, well, can I fix it? What can I do differently? How can I undo this? How can I make a deal with God? Can I make a deal with my ex? Can I make a deal with my work? Whatever it is, to try to fix the situation I'm in, because it's so painful right now that I'll do anything to try to get out of it. And sometimes in a relationship churning situation, like we just mentioned, you'll find that where people don't actually want to be back with their ex, but the pain of being away from them and the fear of an uncertain future without them is so strong
Mm.
that it's safer and more comfortable to go back to something, even when that something isn't really very good for you or even very satisfying and fulfilling.
Yeah.
So bargaining, and then you move into a lot of emotion. Sometimes it's deep sadness and depressive symptoms. Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it is anger, rage. But as you let yourself experience each of those and kind of acknowledge them for yourselves, for ourselves when we do this, a really wonderful place of acceptance can emerge where you can radically look at whatever it is that's happening in your life without sugarcoating it and make choices that say, this isn't something I ever want to go through again. This was brutal. This is painful, but this actually happened. So now what?
Mm.
What choices am I going to make for myself today, even if they seem tiny? Even if it's, I'm going to get out of bed today and take a shower. I'm going to call my best friend who I haven't called in months because I've been so preoccupied with my own grief that I haven't been able to pick up the phone. And I'm just going to call and say, I love you. I'm sorry. I miss you.
Mm.
Maybe it's you vow that you're going to say kind words to yourself when you look in the mirror, because there's a lot of negative self-talk oftentimes after a breakup about your looks, about your value, about your desirability, about whether you're going to find another mate who could ever love you. Maybe that's your step today.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you do those things and you do them every day and you just start practicing.
Mm.
And over time, with practice, it starts to become easier. It starts to become integrated habitually into your new life, which hopefully is one that will transform you and emerge into something very fulfilling and wonderful, that you'll look back on the experience, maybe even with a smile, maybe even with a, wow, that sucked. But I actually learned something from that experience. I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And so I can actually look back on it with all of its misery and all of its beauty and say, thank you.
Mm.
Here I am.
That's beautiful.